Hi, my name is Jerome Bradford, and this is my music journal, where we explore music album by album.
People let you go to the concert. Like, why was that?
Just jump right into it.
Hello, welcome to Jerome's Music Journal. We are here to talk about the Bad Brains self-titled or
Yeah.
the Yellow album. It's had various names because of reissues, and I'm here to talk about it with my good friend Austin. Thank you for being a guest.
Oh
on
yeah,
the show
man.
today.
We've been trying to work it out so I could come on, and this is like the perfect album to do it to, because
Yeah.
I know we're both like, this is like in my like top 5 favorite albums of all time. It like changed my life, which I'll go into later.
Me
Stuff
too.
like.
top five album, top five, band. So yeah.
Oh, dude, yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's just dig right into it. What were your impressions when you first heard this album, and like where did you even hear this album?
Okay, so I first got into. So I'm from Grand Island. I'm a lot older than not a non-traditional student, so I'm a little
Same.
older. So like, yeah, we can relate on that aspect. But growing up in Grand Island, I wasn't really exposed to like a lot of like punk rock music and stuff. So the first like real like punk rock band I remember I heard was Minor Threat. So I really got into Minor Threat. I remember I heard this Minor Threat album, and I like came to Omaha one time and bought a Minor Threat patch and like stitched it onto my jacket or whatever. But through Minor Threat is kind of when I got into Discord Records, which is what this album came out on. And I started really kind of exploring the catalog there, and some of it didn't really catch on with me, like I never got too into like Rites of Spring too much, any of that stuff. But what really caught my eye was this Bad Brains self-titled album. Just like right off the bat, the first time I heard that, just the speed of the album. Because like, Minor Threat, they play pretty fast, but then when you hear this record and just how it's just boom, boom, it just moves.
Breakneck speed. It's like
The drums, yeah, just like insane. Like, and that just, it changed my life when I heard it. It made me want to play guitar, but it also like culturally, as this, middle class white kid in Grand Island, it's not like a lot of other people. Like, it totally caught my attention culturally of like just something completely out there that I was used to. And I've loved this album ever since I first heard it, like I've probably listened to it 1,000 times, and like I listened to it yesterday and it's still like, it just gives me that same feeling,
Goosebumps. Yeah, our stories are kind of similar but opposite ends.
Right.
Because mine was Black Flag. I was in the
Sure.
I love Minor Threat, but Black Flag was that first
Right.
hardcore band, that I got into. And so I remember going and buying their CDs, and I heard, in interviews, him name dropping the Bad Brains. And then I heard Ian McKay in an interview, he was saying that Bad Brains started like every hardcore band respects them. So
Right.
picked up the album, actually listened to the album before I actually, popped that in before I saw a picture. Looked them up online.
Right.
And it was 4 black guys playing hardcore. And that was really powerful for
Yeah.
me because I was that kid in the neighborhood who listened to hardcore punk. And to all the Mav listeners, this was before their music wasn't so genre fluid.
Right.
Back
Music's a
then.
lot more segregated,
Yeah.
for sure.
So just seeing that, and then this breakneck speed, and just them pulling from everything was just crazy to me.
Yeah, totally. I think it's kind of like you said too. I remember when I first heard the album, I was just like, oh, they probably just look like, these standard dudes wearing like the Dickies shirts, with some Doc Martens or whatever. And then I saw a picture, and they're these black dudes that got dreads, and like they're kind of rosted out almost, It's just like really like it blew my mind. But it I remember at that moment, you know, I was like 15 years old, but like I was like, wow, this is punk rock, you know, like this is what a punk band is, you know. They're pushing the boundaries already before even if you would even not even hear a record and just see a picture of the band, you'd be like, wow, that's a punk band, like 4 black guys playing punk rock music, you know. So
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of how it changed it for me, you know. It just opened my eyes to new territories.
I remember I actually did some research today, and I was reading an interview where Jero said, I think this quote sums it up. He says that I was a black guy from D.C., so I was supposed to play funk. If I was a black guy from Jamaica, I was supposed to play reggae. If I was a white guy in D.C., I was supposed to play Led Zeppelin. He's like, I want to play all of it. Like, I didn't follow those rules, you know. And so just the courage it took to do that, because they were getting crap from both sides. Like, I remember saying his relatives were like, why are you guys playing like that white boys music, you know? And then when they would play some clubs, they were like, you guys don't look like hardcore.
Right. Well, like, and especially with, I think, some of the like racist connotations that come with hardcore music, you know, too. Like back in the day, I can't even imagine, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah, it's pretty crazy. But, I mean, that's like, to me, still to this day, like they are the ultimate punk band for that reason, because they threw themselves out there knowing the risks they're taking, you know, all the criticism they were going to get instantly from walking on the stage, you know, like, but
huge amounts of criticism.
But I mean, they changed the game for anybody. Like,
yeah, and to piggyback off what you said, you hit a good point, just them taking risks. I think one thing that's not talked about with the band is the whole PMA concept. I mean, hardcore, you know, these were real kids dealing with like messed up issues like homelessness,
right?
You know, money problems, or just the messed up the way the world
anger,
is.
lots of anger.
To take that and flip it into a PMA attitude was like pretty just groundbreaking in a way. Because, you know, I love Black Flag, huge Black fan.
Oh yeah.
But you don't get that you do in Rise Above, but a lot of hardcore bands were very negative, or, you know, just, but them, they had this very positive attitude.
Yeah, well, and that's funny you mentioned Black Flag, because, like, to me, after I heard Bad Brains, Black Flag just seemed really cheesy to me after that. Like, I still like some Black Flag, but, like, after I heard Bad Brains, I was like, there's no other band like this. You know what I'm saying? It's just really genuine. Like, the way they put themselves out there, the whole thing is just raw and completely genuine. So,
and they were always idols, and I feel like fathers to the scene too. Ian MacKaye says he didn't want to tour with Minor Threat. You know, he's like, I'm fine with staying in DC, but they had came back from a tour, and HR was like, you have to take this band out on the road, man. Everywhere I'm at, kids are like, what is this straight edge thing about? And he's like, I don't know, I'm not Ian, like. And so he came back, he's like, you have to tour. You have a voice in the hardcore scene now that's bigger than DC. About politics or whatever you want it to be.
Right. And I think that's what's cool about Bad Brains too, is like it goes beyond politics even. It's not even a political band. It's just a statement of how you view life, you know, how you like the energy you put out into the world almost. You know, that's kind of what I get from this record.
Put positive energy out, you get positive energy back.
Right. Yeah, which is, like you said earlier, not very common in like punk and like hardcore music, you know.
You know, for a long time, a lot of hardcore went off that Sex Pistols thing of no future.
Right.
Like that was the catchphrase of London punk, you know, no future. Granted, it meant we're rewriting our own history, but most people took it as very negative, like we have no future, so whatever.
Yeah, well, and that's another thing, like, Bad Brains changed the game for American punk music, you know, like, you know, I love the Ramones, we all like the Ramones, whatever, you know, but Bad Brains is different. They played faster, they played better, their songs were catchier almost in a way, like, and it's like more raw, like, and like who would you rather listen to, like, in like as far as like someone being genuine, like 4 white dudes from New York that probably had some money back in the day, or these 4 black guys from Washington, D.C., the heart of like the political system, you know, like that's way more genuine, you know, and it totally translates over to the record. So
it does. It translates to the live too. I mean, even on the record and the live, the way they could just play really fast and stop.
Yeah.
And just bring in
It's crazy, man.
You know, riff or a funk riff, you're like, what? Like,
yeah.
just, oh.
Well, yeah, and like the diversity of the album, even, you know, like obviously like the opening song, Sailing Away, that's like the best opening song of a record ever, in my opinion. Like, because it just starts.
Yeah. Hands down for me, it's like, here is, boom.
Yeah, and it starts with like the classic HR, like, you know, like there's like nothing like that.
HR rally call.
Yeah, he probably does it like, you know, 6-7 times on the record, but it's awesome every time. Like, you know, it's just, it's, you know, when he does that like you like brace for something, because it's like, it's just incredible and powerful the way he like manipulates his voice. I don't know. But like the drums, it all starts with the drumming. Like the speed, it never lets down. But then you go, I think it's track 5, the first like dub song.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden that pops in and you're like, what? Like, what is this? Like, I remember the first time I heard it, I was like, did I somehow end up with like a weird copy of this, you know? Because like I had it on a tape, you know? And like, I'm like, did someone dub over this, you know, or something? Because it's like this 6-minute song, and it's like got a groove to it, you know. But, you know, they also got me into dub music, you know. Yeah. Because before that, you know, you're like Bob Marley. Like, I'm not going to listen to Bob Marley, you know. I like punk music. Right. But then I heard Bad Brains, and I'm like, whoa, these guys like.
See, they got me into a lot of reggae music afterwards. I was like, whoa, okay, like, that's awesome. I never thought a reggae riff would have worked in like a hardcore band. I'm like, what? No,
and they do it well. That's the thing. Like, it doesn't feel forced for them, or like, it's not like someone was like, oh, you should put a dub song on the record. Like, you can tell that they are really enveloped in it, and like, it means just as much to them as like their like fast punk songs, you know. But yeah, it got me into, like, I'm a huge dub fan. I'm like, love like King Tubby, you know, and all that stuff, like the old school stuff, Lee Scratch Perry, you know. So like, but that's because of Bad Brains, you know.
Yeah, I think they opened up that world for a lot of people in the hardcore scene too, because those kids weren't exactly searching out, like we talked about, you know, rock records, other forms of music. And I think in some ways punk has always been like that in some terms, you know. It was classic rock before then. Punk kind of was like, okay, no more classic rock, you know, but here's a band that's like, I'm going to pull from everything. So that's hugely different.
Right. And like, little is it like groundbreaking on a musical level, but also on a cultural level. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Because that's what this did. Like, it made music diverse for people, for everyone. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, these, like you, Jerome, like this one kid, like the one black guy that likes like hardcore music, you don't got to feel like left out when you heard this record, you know? Like, it's for anybody. Because that's how it should be, you know? So
a lot of people found their home on this record, you know? I kind of think, and I think we've had this conversation even about some rappers, like, you know, I feel like they made it easier for a lot of rappers who don't fit the rap mold, the Tylers, the De La Soul. You don't have to fit into this box.
Right. Yeah, I mean, and that's really like what art's all about. So, you know, to like break the mold, to get out from like the boundaries that you're like set in, but to do it in a genuine way. And like also really raw way.
Yeah.
Like if you listen to this record,
It's raw. It's
Yeah.
raw.
like sure it's not the best recording, but for what it is, for the songs, it is. Like it just sounds like visceral and like
Sounds like you're right there at a show or watching
Right.
them play.
right.
Yeah.
You could tell they probably I don't know this for sure, but I would imagine they recorded it live because it sounds like you can hear the energy.
Yeah.
Like you can picture HR like jumping all the time, you know. and-
The HR flip, like his flips were just, God, how can he do those flips? Like,
Right. Yeah, and like live videos after I would watch after hearing this record, it's just incredible, man. Like my bucket list band. I've never seen them, always wanted to, you know, and I'm sure it'll never happen, but
same, like it'll never happen.
but yeah. But the way that the record progresses, like I said, with the dub songs, but even like all the fast songs, they don't really sound the same.
They don't. They sound very different, you know. And then you get to the songs like "I Love Job," which is very just slow and like slow paced.
Yeah, but it's
And it
got that
fits,
like
yeah.
good groove to
Yeah.
it, you know. And it's weird. Like I was thinking this yesterday when I listened to the record, like after like the dub songs play and then you hear the fast songs, you can like really appreciate the bass playing.
Yeah.
You like notice it more
Yeah.
on the fast songs and it's like, whoa, he's not just like playing like some like simple bass lines.
Very
Like it like
complex, yeah.
moves the music along with the drums. Like this band is like all about the rhythm section, you know. So
I always felt listening to it, it's almost like I always said that HR's voice and the bass line just felt like they were having a conversation
yeah.
musically.
oh yeah, yeah, and like HR's voice. I mean, there is like nothing like it. Like
No.
just the scream when he's just like you know. I keep saying that, but it's just so awesome. Like it's a perfect way to start songs. And I'm sure he does it to like tell the band, okay, the song is going to be starting. It's almost like a count off, you know, but they did it on the record and it's so cool every time they do it.
I
Like,
love the screen. And then he can slow it down too. You hear parts where it's very groovy and soulful too.
yeah. And he like the way he moves his voice through some like high pitched stuff. And then he goes into his lower registers sometimes. And then when he sings on the dub songs or like sings talks, like it's just real, like, I don't know.
I love the way he stretches out a word too. I always remember the HR where he's like, yeah. Like
You're
he
right.
just stretches that,
Yeah, he's I mean, the whole band is so talented. The guitar player, like his guitar tone is awesome, which I will say some of the later records, some of the guitar stuff, like his tone gets a little, the distortion just seems a little fake sounding tinny, but man, on this record, like it's just all gelled together so well. Like Band in DC, that song, like
Which
I mean,
that song was just awesome because that's a real life song. They were banned in DC.
right.
I think they were banned in, last time I read, 17 clubs in DC that were just like, nope,
No
you
way.
can't play here, no. Which made the tape come out so late.
Right.
You know?
Well, and I've heard always too of the album being referred to as Band in DC,
Yeah.
which is weird. Like, you know, what is the name of the album? Like, is it self-titled? Is it the yellow tape?
Yeah. Is it banned in DC?
Right.
You said?
Yeah, because like I've heard so many different reiterations, and like obviously it's been like reissued so many times now. And I think finally they own the rights to it.
Which is good. Like,
Well, right.
Yeah.
Because I think the last time that it got reissued was in 2017. And that was the band itself that actually had control and was able to, do what they wanted to do with it. So, but, dude, it's like the ultimate album, like.
What are some of your favorite tracks on the album? Do you have some favorites?
Yeah, definitely Sailing Away.
Yeah, Sailing Away is for me. I have the list right here, and this is one of the albums I wish I had the vinyl because
Yeah, me too.
just the cover art, that lightning striking the Capitol building at that time, that was pretty brave to like put that on the
Right.
vinyl cover. Like you gonna have crosshairs on you, you know.
Right, but like think of that, like you see that record cover and then you put the album on and it just starts.
Yeah.
And like
Yeah.
it's just it gives me chills even
Yeah.
talking about it,
Yeah.
you know, because
It
it's
does.
like so I don't know. The whole thing is just completely groundbreaking and like it's the ultimate form of art, you
Yeah.
know. It really is. Like they would maybe be like upset me saying that, you know,
Yeah.
but that's what it
Yeah.
is to me, you know, like
I think one of the things that the records does really well is a time capsule for that scene as well. We talk about how every different region of hardcore had its own rules. I always felt that the DC uh, area of hardcore was a lot more posy as a whole, and I think Bad Brains are one that, and like we were saying, not just in a political sense, but you take DC and compare it to bands in LA, which LA was just, I love it. I love LA hardcore,
Right.
but I feel like it was devoid of anything being like posy. Like you didn't have anything out there like that till maybe
No.
the Youth Crew or some
No.
of that stuff where, you know, that Youth Crew movement was all about being posy.
right, right, like those DC bands didn't get a lot of attention
Yeah.
until these other bands from other places came, like New York, LA, you know, when they came there and they're like, whoa, like you guys have like
Yeah.
a sound, you know, and a scene like, and then nowadays, like it's like legendary. I'm pretty sure they just put out this like huge Discord box set.
Yeah, I was trying to get it, but I was like, no, I got.
Yeah, I'm sure it's
watch
pretty
it. Yeah.
pricey, man.
Yeah.
Like, but yeah, it's like all the albums and a bunch of pictures and stuff. And it's cool that they took all these band pictures of like even Bad Brains
Yeah.
in different situations
Yeah.
to like archive that
Yeah.
stuff now.
That was a big part of the DC scene too, the archiving of it,
Right.
You know? Not a lot of scenes archive their stuff, you know.
No. And what's cool about Bad Brains is it's all like live pictures because like they were a live band.
Yeah.
Like, you know, the energy,
Yeah.
the flips from HR, you know, the jumping constantly, like, I don't know. Like, I can't even imagine being at those shows back in the day, like how the music would make you feel, you know? Like, I'd probably pass out from
Yeah.
like just like pure, like, just being overwhelmed, you know?
That was some energy back then. I know I would have too. It's like just and you know, and just to have that unity of the scene too. So you know.
Yeah, so favorite tracks. What is it? I don't have a track listing on me, but the third song.
I have it here. I can look it up. I took some notes on the phone, so
Yeah. I mean, obviously, Banned in DC.
yeah,
That's probably my
obviously,
favorite.
DC,
Like,
yeah.
that's like the staple of the record, you know. Attitude is
Yeah,
great.
Attitude is a good one.
Like, the first 5 songs before it goes into the dub song are
Oh,
just,
yeah.
like, incredible. Like, you almost need that break, too,
Yeah.
of the dub song because you're like, wow, what did I just listen to?
You
know?
gotta recover from all that energy. That's why I feel like that dub song is a good. Okay, let's slow the pace
Right,
down.
right. Yeah, because, I mean,
Yeah.
they don't stop. If you notice when you listen to the record, it doesn't stop after
Yeah.
the songs. They took the air out. So it just goes.
So,
Like, which I imagine live was probably the same way. You know, they didn't stop. They didn't talk to you, you know.
yeah, they were just like, let's give them this pure energy, which is good that they did have the dub songs, or else a lot of people probably would have passed out at those shows.
Right, and I kind of, part of me wonders too if they're like, did it a little bit to make some like of the like punk purists in the
Yeah,
crowd a
yeah,
little
yeah.
upset, like
Yeah.
what?
And I
Like,
think I think DC was always good about that stuff too, because I feel like you know, when Ian McKay talks about breaking up Minor Threat, he's like the day he stopped, because he looks over, and like his brother and a friend are just like beating the crap out of this guy. So I wonder, like you said, if it's just okay, we gotta slow this down. You know, they were one of those first scenes to be like, all right, like the pit has turned into something that wasn't supposed to be.
Right.
Yeah.
Like it went from expression to violence,
Yeah.
which Bad Brains, they weren't about the
Yeah,
violence
yeah,
at
they
all,
weren't.
but they were about expression,
Yeah.
like being positive mental attitude,
right.
man, like
Yeah,
positive
yeah.
how you view yourself, how you
Yeah.
put yourself out there,
Yeah.
what you're getting back, which is weird because other punk bands weren't like that,
They were not.
like you had Black Flag, like Six Pack, and like stuff
Yeah.
like that, and TV
then-
Party,
right.
and
And you had some of the tough guy hardcore that was just, I mean, for lack of a better term, like fighting, hardcore. Like,
right. Yeah, this isn't like that. It's because the record doesn't necessarily sound like angry to me.
No, it doesn't. It sounds very upbeat, like upbeat. To me, it sounds like upbeat energy. They're discussing real issues, but I don't get a pessimistic
No,
thing from this record once it's off. So
no, and it's like the song Attitude. Like it's not like this. Like it's not about like having this punk rock like nihilist attitude. It's about like being proud of yourself. And like the way you treat other people and
kind of you have this life, do something with it.
right.
Don't just
It's about energy.
Yeah.
Like it's not about anger and nihilism and like being skeptical of everything. It's not about that.
Yeah.
No, it translates to the whole record too.
Yeah.
Like and the way that like that whole concept like goes throughout the career of the band
Yeah.
and progresses.
Yeah.
Like I don't care for some of the later albums, but still like you gotta respect the fact that they kept that throughout. Like because later on they became basically a dub band.
Yeah,
They kind of scrapped the hardcore thing and just became a dub band, but it still had the same energy as from the first record to the last record, So
And I think that was kind of a beacon for kids. I know the Beastie Boys, they were really inspired just by the power of the Bad Brains, and I think it made it easier for people like that to get into hardcore, just because I felt like they were an alternative. We talked about how they were for black guys playing in hardcore and how that was groundbreaking, but I feel like even the PMA was groundbreaking because you had that nihilistic attitude may not have appealed to, kids that weren't so nihilistic that maybe were into hardcore. So
right. Well, and I think also it opened people's eyes up because they're like, whoa, if these guys aren't pissed off,
yeah,
then what am I pissed off
Yeah.
about?
Yeah,
In a
kinda.
way. Because I know that's kind of how it made me feel,
Yeah.
Because I felt, I wasn't the cool guy at
Yeah.
school because I listened to punk music
Yeah.
and no one knew what it was in Grand Island or
Yeah.
understood it, Like I had to discover it for myself, but like it like made me like more comfortable in my skin, but also less angry because I'm like, if these guys who should be angry and like because they are like marginalized, but they're not, then what am I angry about? Like it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Like
They added a lot of that to the scene, definitely.
yeah.
Yeah.
And like the way the bands they influence, like you said, Beastie
yeah.
Boys, like the list is
Yeah.
huge. Like
I even hear, just that musical experimentation. We can even turn that back to Turnstile, who's a big band today.
Right.
And I feel like Turnstile now, you know, they're a totally different band than Bad Brains, but I see some parallels where, you know, I'll read reviews of Turnstile show or turn on a YouTube video of Turnstile, and like some of the old guard and hardcore is like, what? Like, this is too experimental.
Right.
Like, you know, so it's even so experimental that they've even given a term. It's like flower core or something.
Sure.
Because it's
right.
So, I'm just like, well, they're still playing hardcore. They're just experimental. Like,
Right.
you know.
Right. And I guess for me, like, all of that is just falling under the category of a punk band to me. You know what I'm saying?
You know.
Like, it's not really about the music, but it's more about the way the band represents themselves is punk to me, you know? So, like, I've always thought of Bad Brains as just a punk band, you know, like...
And I kind of, you know, for me, I look at, too, you know, Husker Du and Bad Brains, I kind of got into around the same time. And
Sure.
Husker Du was very melodic, experiment with melody, didn't hate classic rock. So I just found them playing with classic rock as just part of taking something old and making it into punk rock.
Right, and Bad Brains did it similarly with, like, you know, dub music and culture, you know, like the way that they kind of took it and manipulated it into their own. It's just a great record, dude. I mean, there's nothing like it. I mean, and the thing is, you could listen to it 4 times in an hour or something. It's like
just it's no filler. It's like you just put it on, let it play.
Because I think the original is like 10 songs. Now I think what you get, there's like a couple like
bonus
cutouts tracks on there, which are still great.
Yeah.
That you're like, why did they cut this out? But it's kind of cool that it's like a 20-minute record, you know? Yeah. Like we talked about this before the show. Like, I listened to it yesterday and I was like, it's over? Like, you always forget how short it is because you're so like wrapped up into it, you know?
Yeah, it puts you, you know, in a place. This is a record where you almost feel like you're not listening to a record. You are at a Bad Brains show. And it's rare. That speaks to the power of that record and how they were able to translate that energy into an album to make you feel like that.
Yeah. And the way they end the album is perfect, you know. There's no filler. Like, they put these, like, dub songs in there to, like, I'm sure the average person at first would hear this slower song and be like, oh, it's probably some, like, filler song. But when you listen to them, like, it flows with the record just as much. And it's still telling the same story, just in a different way, which is super cool. Yeah. And, like, listening to dub nowadays, like, I got quite the dub vinyl collection. I'm kind of a nerd about it.
Show me sometime.
Yeah.
I haven't listened to dub in a while, but I love dub. And this was one of the records that just, that dub sound made me fall in love with it.
But, like, you know, I'm a huge dub vinyl collector. And, like, listening to those of, like, the dub greats, you know, Lee Scratch Perry and, you know, King Tubby and Augustus Pablo, like, listening to those guys, it makes you realize, like, that Bad Brains, they were good at playing dub music. Like, that's the thing. Like, usually like, when you think of the Ramones, everyone's like, those guys can't play guitar, or they're not musicians, they're just playing 2 chords or whatever. But this Bad Brains is not like that.
No, they were
like,
playing complex stuff.
Even some of those riffs, like, you know, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Like, the Attitude riff is, like, pretty nuts.
Yeah.
Like, it's not easy to play. But
I
then
tried
to, like,
duplicate it in my teen years and sadly felt like, this is not going to happen.
Like, yeah, because I remember listening to the album. It's like, I want to play guitar. And it's like, wow, this is not easy. You know, sure, I can play Blitzkrieg Bop, but, you know, I can't play Band in D.C. You know what I'm saying? Like, and, like, but the fact that they were good at playing dub music just tells you like the respect that they give, like what they grew up on, like the predecessors before them. Like they gave it enough respect that they're like, we're not just gonna put this on the record and not know what we're doing. Like those dub songs, they're great, and they stand up there with like anyone else doing it, you know. And and I'm sure these people, these guys from Jamaica that played that are like, what? These 4 kids from Washington D.C. are like playing dub music, like, but they're good at it, you know.
They're excellent. That like they stepped up the musicality of just that scene, you know. And I think they stepped up too. Who we didn't touch on is just stepped up the overall voice in that scene, because that scene, those scenes tend to be very insular, and you know, you don't necessarily want to get your message out to the world. You're like, no, I'm just gonna stay right here, you know, whether it's because you don't want to, or even maybe you may have a band that hasn't, you know, negative view of taking their message out, because the whole, you know, no, I'm underground, that's like where I'm gonna stay. Like, you know, they didn't really have that, you know.
Yeah, it's cool that they were able to branch out and like almost bring everyone else from that scene with them, you know. And but I mean, they have to get credit for it, because they are the ultimate, like, we're here, we're gonna play, and everyone's gonna watch me. Like as soon as the drummer goes 1, 2, 3, 4 on his sticks, like you're paying attention to Bad Brains, because like the way they play, it's captivating, you know. And that, like we said earlier, that really translates over to the record. I think more than any other band is like the live aspect, because like if they put out that earlier live record, and like it sounds pretty similar to this record, you know, which is a good thing, like, because they are an example of a band that should sound what they sound like live, you know. That's not always the case, but here it is, you know what I'm saying? Like, definitely the case. So.
Yeah, you definitely get that. This, like I said, this is a great album. Any closing words about it that you want to just?
I mean, if anyone's never heard this record, like, listen to it, you know. I think sometimes, like, punk rock music will kind of, like, scare people. I guess that's not the right word, but take them aback and have them be like, oh, I don't know. But, like, this is, like, I don't know. It's just a record that everyone should hear, and I think it's pretty accessible. It might take a couple times to listen to, you know, but once you hear it again, you can really respect, like, what was going on at the time and just the whole cultural influence of it all, like, and the way that it changed the landscape of punk music from then on, from when it came out in 1982 to now, still to this day, you know.
Influence. And I think one of the, you know, closing things that I'll say, I'm glad to see that. I feel like they're coming more to, they've always had that, you know, credit in the hardcore place and stuff like that, but I'm seeing more rappers give them their due, that are experimental rappers that actually are saying, hey, you know, these guys were an influence to me. These guys taught me to just do whatever, even if they don't play hardcore, maybe inject hardcore into their rap. Just that of being yourself.
Right, and I mean that's the ultimate form of expression, is appreciation for like those that influenced you. I mean that's what Bad Brains did, and like the way they moved that forward and onto the people that they've influenced now. So it's the same, you know, it's just the ultimate form of expression. Like that's what Bad Brains is to me. It's like expression at its finest, you know. So
well, thanks for, you know,
yeah, it was fun, man. We'll have to do another one.
I'm gonna give a shout out. Thanks to my friend Wesley.
Yeah, thanks Wesley.
Cameras. He's back there. So, uh, well, listeners, thanks for watching Jerome's Music Journal. And final words, go check out that Bad Brains band in DC or the Yellow
Self-titled,
Tape.
yeah.
That's still up in the air. If anyone knows, you know, just comment on our social media page.
Yeah.
Thanks, listeners, and have a good day.